This is a iFlight XL5 frame, which flies really great. I like this frame a lot. There's nothing wrong with this frame. As you see, it's in a good shape. Or is there? To find out, stick around. I'll show you what it is and how to fix it. This frame has a 2mm top plate and 2mm bottom plate. And the common problem I'm running into with this frame, and I have a few others in here that I'll share, that when it crashes, arms usually survive, although I've broken quite a few. But the biggest problem I have is the top plate or the bottom plate not surviving the crash. And as you see here, I'll try to wiggle this, and you see this frame is right now flexing down quite easily. The reason for that is that it broke during crash, broke right here and right here. This 2mm plate is too weak to withstand crash in a freestyle FPV. Now, it might be great for racing because you want to minimize the weight. However, for FPV freestyle, a little extra weight goes a long ways with added durability. In this video, I'm gonna show you what I done with my other quads, how to prevent this top plate from falling apart, breaking, and what needs to be done. Second problem with this quad is that the GoPro mount is actually mounted on the screws through the top 4, 2 on each side, top posts through the screws here. And with this being a TPU, which is a softer material, during crash, those two plates, they tend to flex, and that also causes more strain on the weak point here of the frame. So two things that we need to take care of is make sure that the plate is sturdy, and make sure that the camera mount here does not create an issue of softness within the rigidness of this frame. When you look at XL5 iFlight frame top plate, you will see that it has a hole on left and right side that is actually not used. Those two holes, which on the frame is here and here, they're not used. The stack doesn't use them. The front post is mounted to this hole and this hole. And what happens with this hole being in this spot, it creates the weak spot on this top plate. And I had many of those plates broken right smack in the same spot, same place. So while we fix this quad, I'll show you what I done with my other quads, and we'll get to fixing here in a little bit. But let me grab another XL frame. This is actually XL6, which the on the XL6 the top and bottom plate is exactly the same as for XL5, and I believe XL7 also. The only difference is that the arms are a little bit longer. In this quad, I have sort of remodeled it and used a little bit longer standoffs here, but you see the top plate is doubled and the bottom plate is doubled. So the strength of this whole frame is much bigger than when you use a single plate. Also, the GoPro mount is not mounted on the screws where it creates the TPU cushion underneath the screws. They're sturdy and rigidly screwed together. GoPro mount is attached with tie wraps, which in case of a crash, they are another safety feature where they tear off and they save your GoPro. When your battery is mounted at the top, and 9 times out of 10, when your quad is heading to the ground, it tends to flip upside down, and this camera mount will take an impact, and with that it tends to push this front of the frame forward. It will, if it's not sturdy and stiffly mounted, it will break that single plate. With this double plate, I crashed this quad many times. Have never had any issues with this plate breaking. Another quad I have in here, which is on a Vivid frame. This frame is by Newbie Drone. It was gifted to me by a friend of mine. And first thing that I saw, within this frame you have one screw and post about midsection when you mount your DJI unit in the rear. Then you put your stack, and then you have another post right here up front. The length between the first and the mid post is 80 millimeters. That's about 3¼ inches. What happens, and when I looked at this frame, I'm like, holy smokes, first crash in this front nose, as long as it is gonna break, it's gonna crack. And actually I have to say that it took more than one crash. It took about 3 or 4 crashes, and yes, this top plate broke. I have since then doubled up this plate. I bought 2 extra top plates from Newbie Drone and assembled them or glued them together. This frame crashed since many times, and it hasn't broke the plate yet. Also, luckily, it has not broke an arm yet. So I think I'm very lucky with this frame. And one thing I have to say, this Vivid frame, the nice thing about this long front here is that you don't catch your props in your GoPro. And actually, this frame flies really, really well. So first, when I flew this frame, I was very amazed how well it flies. And then of course, after I broke the top plate, I had this replaced and eliminated that problem for good. Now, how many crashes it will take? Will it eventually break at some point? Perhaps. but right now it's really sturdy. One more frame I have here, and this is Martian 2, and with the Martian 2 the same thing. I would break an arm once in a while when I crash, but notoriously I would break the top and bottom plate on this frame, and therefore, as you see, this frame is doubled up, and also the bottom frame, let me make sure you can see it in the camera, also the bottom plate is doubled up. This makes this quad much more sturdy and eliminated the GoPro mount going through the screws, so there's no cushy stuff underneath the screws, and this works really well. With my Martian 2 frame, I've been breaking so many plates that I was buying frames over and over and over, and as you can see here, I have a whole bunch of arms as a spare part to play with, but no top or bottom plates because they break so easy. So now that I double them up, I have not broke top or bottom plate yet. The thing that I can suggest, if you are buying a frame, and that's what I'm doing now going forward, instead of buying one frame that for the quad that I want to build, I buy 2 frames, and that way I can double up from the 2 frames, double up the top and bottom plate, and I have 4 spare arms as a spare part if I need to replace one. A little extra weight actually might help you with some tricks, so adding just a little bit of weight should not be problematic at all. On an XL frame, the top plate weighs only 12 grams, so you are really not adding that much of the weight. The bottom plate might be slightly larger, so you add another 14, maybe 15 grams. So you adding, when you reinforce the top and the bottom, you're adding somewhere in the 30 grams, which is really not that much for a freestyle quad. Another plate here I have from this is the Martian 2 top plate, which weighs 9 grams, right? Is that what I see? Yep, 9 grams. So you add a 9 grams plus the little weight of glue. Let's say you add 10 grams. Not much at all. Okay, so for this we're gonna need a pair of gloves, some kind of a mixing container with a mixing spreading stick, at least 2 screws. I have 4 here, but I'll probably use just 2. A toothpick or 2. Some clamps. I have 6 clamps. I'll probably use all 6 because I'm gonna try to clamp it on those sides here, in the center, and for the front, and likewise on the other side. So I'll use 6 clamps, 5-minute epoxy in our 2 plates. Alright, so let's get started. Epoxy, it is 5-minute epoxy, but it gives you enough time to spread it throughout the plate, so we should have sufficient time to do that. Let me put those on the side for now. Let's squeeze some out here. We don't need a lot, just enough. That looks like more than enough. Okay. Okay, let's mix them up for a few seconds. Grab the plate and just spread it. Try to spread it as even as possible so you don't have thick spots that would start dripping when we apply the clamps. But you want to put enough where both surfaces will get that glue. Sometimes people recommend to apply the glue to both surfaces, but I think with those clamps we shouldn't have any problems. At least I didn't have any problems bonding them before. Okay. That's too much. Okay. Alright. That looks pretty good. And I'll apply it on top of the other plate. And here we're going to use the screws. Those are the regular 3mm screws. Just put it through so those two plates are centered. Okay, and as you see in some spots there's some extra glue that came through. You can remove that slightly. We don't want them in our holes. You have plenty time to remove that glue if it leaks through before it sets. Okay. Here's where the Velcro strap goes. I might use another screw in here just to make sure that it's nice and centered. Okay. You grab a towel. Now you can wash, if you have any leaked out, you can wash it off with acetone while it's still fresh. Alright, wipe it off a little bit, and I think we're ready to apply the clamps. 3 on one side and 3 on another. Yeah, that looks good. Yeah, I definitely want to make sure that this front here is nice and clamped off. Alright, now we got to wait a few minutes. Okay. Let me set it aside. And we'll wait about 5 or 10 minutes and we'll be right back. Alright, so it's been probably about between 8 and 10 minutes since we clamped it up. Put a fresh set of gloves. I'm looking at the leftover glue here. It's still soft, but it's hard enough where we can take the clamps off. And what I want to do now, there's some of the epoxy that came out. I want to take some acetone and wash it off a little bit. I want to take the toothpick, make sure that all the holes that are needed for the screws, well, these are not used, but the ones that we're going to use for the screws, and maybe for the camera holders, which I don't use on this quad, but we'll clean them out so they're not plugged up. Okay, and I'll run a little bit around the edge. Can remove the screws now. Those screws got a little bit of epoxy on them, so that's why when it gets it between the threads, it doesn't want to come out very easy. But that's about it. We leave it to rest for about maybe another hour before I'll put it on the quad. All right, guys, that's how I do it. If you find a better way, please leave a comment, and if this is helpful for you, please do subscribe and hit that bell button so you'll know when my next video is coming up. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.